This is the Starlight Express Alumni Podcast.
Hey everybody, my name is Anthony Galde, and I was part of the original Broadway cast of Starlight Express. So I'm alum from a long time ago. And I was a swing and understudy, and I was 18 when I started it. And it was my first Broadway show and the most difficult Broadway show that I did in my 25 plus years of performing in New York. It was definitely the hardest, but I made it. And now I have got two new hips.
Yeah, two new hips. I'm getting ready. I'm probably next year. I'll get a new one next year.
Yeah.
I've been pretty good, but thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to hear your story, your journey, and everyone's been loving hearing about each other's journeys, and there's so many surprises that on every single interview. So I can't wait to hear some of your surprises. So the first question is this: how did you find out about Starlight? I mean, the audition. How did you find out about it?
Okay, so this is some craziness. So I was living in California, and I was working at a theme park in Northern California, and a friend of mine, her mom told me about it. And so, this is Kimberly Blake.
Kimberly, yes.
Alum. So Kimberly's mom told me about it. She said, we're going to New York to audition for this thing. And I had speed skated and stuff like that. So the skating was, that was the easy part, actually. So we went to New York, and it was like cattle call. And we would audition from Monday through Friday, and then I would go back to California for the weekend and do my shows at the theme park. And that went on for 3 weeks or so.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just gazillions of people, and I don't even know. I had like 14 callbacks. It was just crazy. And so I figured, clearly I'm going to get this show, so I should probably pack my things and move to New York. So I did, and when I got to New York, I discovered that I hadn't gotten the show. So I started waiting tables, and so it was I was there for about a month or a month and a half. And what happened is there had been one more Rocky movie. Mm-hmm. So at the time, there were only 3 Rockies, but they were going to 4 Rockies, right? Yeah. Right. So, because there had been another Rocky movie, right. So Rocky 4. So that's when they bumped a swing. And so they have one more call. And so they called in a few of us, not too many. And we went in on a Thursday and did that audition. And then they said, come back on Monday. They gave me the music for Wide Smile and There's Me. And they said, come back on Monday and impress us. So I thought, in my 18-year-old wisdom, I thought I was the only one who was coming back on Monday to impress them. So I went into dance class the weekend and learned music and all that kind of stuff. And on Monday I came in, and I walked in, and there were like 10 guys there. So I was all plucked. I was really upset. Like, I thought it was just me coming to impress you. So I went in, and I remember they had a floor built in and on one of the rotundas, on one of the sides of the Gershwin Theater. And then down the stairs by the bar, they had a little piano. So we were all in that kind of holding pen rotunda area, and they would take people down one at a time to sing. And everyone was there. Trevor Nunn was there, and Arlene, and Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I mean, it was just like everybody was there. And so I did my thing. And then I had been on the corner of 51st and Broadway. I got hit by a taxi as I was going to the audition.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was a little bit disheveled and a little bit like not on my game and feeling a little pain. And so I did the audition, and then I started kind of hobbling home, and I got home, and my manager at the time asked me how it went, and I said, it's fine. I did the best I could. I'm kind of beaten up from getting hit by a cab. And and bummed. I just wish I had done better. And you know, that thing that we all do. And so she said, well, that's crazy because you start tomorrow.
Cool. Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was amazing. So so that was my story. And then I started the next day, and yeah, that was
wow, that's awesome. I like that. You threw that taxi, get hit by a taxi thing.
Yeah. And you know, as we do, I have my skates in my bag, and you know, I just drag my skates and my, you know, my beat myself into the audition and did my thing, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So you got hired, and you start rehearsals. What was the rehearsal process for you like?
Well, it was wild because they had already moved to the theater. They had just moved to the theater. So we really didn't get much time. The swings didn't get much time. It was a lot of, you know, as it usually is in most shows. The difference is, you know, when you swing the show or understudy the show, right, you don't know the set. You don't know that, like, you need to physically get up and do it, which is not a luxury you have, right? So, so there was a lot of just being out in the lobbies, and we had to go through all this training stuff where Michael Fraley, they took off our toe stops and they'd make us run up all the stairs in the Gershwin Theater, and there are about 5 million stairs. We'd run up the stairs and then skate on the carpet, you know, without your toe stops, and then run up the next set of stairs. And I remember going through a lot of that kind of stuff, and just learning it as best I could. And then I was one of the first people to go on, and my first time on was for Barry Bernal for Red Caboose. Mm-hmm. And so that was my Broadway debut, Red Caboose. I had never had a race rehearsal. I had never learned the choreography to Wide Smile. I had not had a vocal rehearsal.
Oh my.
And they called me, and I was in Jersey City. But, you know, I was 18, so I was like, of course, I'm ready to, you know, I was like, seriously. Now at 52, you know, or 51, I would probably crap myself. But yeah, then I was like, I was all into it. So so they called me in Jersey City, and they said, you're on, get here, and we'll go through the choreography, and we'll do race thing and all that. But it was a schlep for me to get into the city. So I said, well, I'm just going to be able to get there and kind of talk through things and then start getting ready. And so Barry, I don't remember what was wrong with him. What kind of injury he had, but he came in and did my makeup. So I have pictures of him like doing my makeup my first time on Broadway. Wow. And he would just run around and kind of meet me in different places and talk me through the next chunk of the show or whatever. And
do you remember anything about doing that first show, or was everything just like a blank? Yeah.
No, I don't remember anything, except I do remember before the show thinking, I went through this moment where I thought, oh my gosh, Wide Smile, I really don't know the choreography. I know the pattern, but I don't know the choreography. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, you know what? So I can kind of do anything I want, and they can't really say anything. I just can just do my thing. And so I took the pressure off myself, and I think I created some pretty fantastic things that night. In my head, I did. I nailed it. But
that's funny.
Yeah.
You know what? Because in my mind, you're the only one that I know could do something like that.
Well, I don't have a choice. You know what I mean? It's like they tell you, you know, you're on. You know, right. It's the nature of the beast. But yeah, it was an exciting, petrifying night.
Wow.
Sure. But it happened.
Well, I appreciate you for sharing that. Now, a question that I know a lot of the alumni. This is a simple question, but it brings up a lot of answers. So bottom line is this: what's your greatest memory of your Starlight journey? And the first thing that comes to mind.
My greatest single memory, it's kind of
probably an amount.
I think probably it doesn't have to be. It was a dramatic. It was craziness, but I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the big when Kong folded up and started flying away while we were all skating down it. And so I think there was one couple that it was in race one, I think. Anyway, I think some of the people got off the end. One couple got off the end, and I was racing we were the second couple to go down. And so we hit the flap on the end of Kong like a ramp. So we hit that, and I remember hitting something on the top underneath the second level and flipping end over end. And I broke my thumb and my finger in 4 places. And as I landed, I looked up, and the flap was like this.
Wow.
So Bob Torty and Jane Krakowski hit it, and Bob flipped over it and fell down.
Oh my
and
God.
Jane somehow stayed up there, and they did the whole race or stop racing thing. And I was just dazed, and I skated across from stage right to stage left and went off stage, and they cut my glove off me and, duct tape your fingers together like we all did when we broke our fingers. So we were ready to go. And then I remember them saying it was not an error, a human error. It was a technical something. I mean, this is what I remember in my head. It was crazy. So it might not have gone exactly like this, but this is what I remember in my head. Because I just remember thinking, if it was a human error, then I would feel okay to go on with the show. If it's a technical error or the instrument's freaking out or whatever, computer, then I'm not sure I want to go back out there. So it was a little while, and Bob, that was when Bob completely destroyed his knee, and it was craziness. And so then they said, we're going to start back up. And the next thing was There's Me. So Jane and I go out, and, normally Dinah's just kind of whimpering. Well, Jane was in full blown hysterical, like snobbing, snot. And my vibrato was like machine gun, because I was shaking so hard. I was just like, ah. And
wow.
Yeah. But it was that is definitely a memory, because it was such a trip. I mean, there were a lot of those during tech. Our 10 out of 12 was like, I don't even know, it was over a month that we
I know Reva was talking about the 10 out of 12s.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. She said it was crazy. It was just it was like ongoing.
It just kept going and going. And every time Trevor would gather us in the house, and talk about, they were changing the opening, bumping the opening or whatever. Just grown men crying, grown men in roller skates, just like, because we would put our roller skates on in the morning and just leave them on all through dinner, all through everything.
You live in them.
Yeah, because your feet would swell up and you couldn't get them back on after.
Now you've done many shows. You've been in this industry for a long time, and out of curiosity, I know a couple of us, myself including, I've done the West Side Stories, other Andrew Lloyd Webber shows, and a lot of stuff, TV stuff. I've done stunt work, but for me, Starlight physically was the most demanding for me. It's actually the only show that I got injured in. I broke my hand, I busted my leg, I hyperextended both my elbows. We've got our stories. Yeah, even in stunt work, when I've done stunt work, I've never had the injuries. So for me, Starlight was the most physically challenging, demanding show. And Reva did say, a couple of us did agree with that. What's your thoughts about that?
No, there is nothing that will ever compare to this show. Nothing. Nothing. I remember Steve Fowler, who played Papa. I remember him on numerous occasions in company meetings. He would say, I was in Vietnam and this show, it seemed kind of dramatic, but it's like, oh man, that was no joke. Because in a split second, one little move, one little thing could turn the show. Yeah. I mean, I remember someone saying, wouldn't it be cool if someone skated across, went through the stage right bowl, came across and jumped and did a 360 and did this. I don't know what the thing was, but of course, in my infinite 18-year-old wisdom, I was like, I'll totally do that. I will totally try that. Yeah, I'm in. And so the day I was going to put this thing in the show, and I just was real excited. And so I came across, went through the bowl, came across the stage and jumped and just got way too much height. So I rotated around, and then I was rotated around again. I was like, oh Lord. And I knew there was a bowl there. And I kept coming around, and just as I did, I stuck my arm out, and I just heard this pop.
Oh.
And yeah, and that's when I broke my arm. I skated off stage. I skated off stage, my hand hanging there, and I was like, "Oh, I think I broke my arm." Hanging there. Yeah, crazy. And then they had this at St. Clair's Hospital. They had it was like a team there that was ready for us to come and be broken up and come into there, and they would, but it was a chop shop. And so I went in, when I still had all my makeup on. We went in, and this lady, she wanted me to fill out all this paperwork. And I was like, dude, my hand's hanging there. I was like, no, I can't, can we do the paperwork another time? And she's like, no, you had to fill out all this paperwork. So I put my hand on the paper, and I couldn't put any pressure on it. So I'm trying to write, and the paper just keeps sliding around, and I'm trying to, so I finally got that done. And then they took me in the back, and this guy, the doctor, came in, and I was standing up, and there was a mirror in front of me, and I had all my makeup on, and I'm standing there, and the doctor sits down, and he grabs my hand, and he's going, I cannot get the bone. I can't get the bone. And he keeps pulling on my hand. And I'm looking in the mirror going, there's gotta be a camera somewhere. And then they brought in this homeless guy and set him on this gurney next to mine. And they cut his shirt off of him and start to lance this thing on his back that is the size of Connecticut. And so he's over here getting this thing done, and he's going, oh, and I'm looking in the mirror at me with all my Starlight drag on, and this guy's going, I can't get the bone, I can't, and yanking on my arm. I was like, wait a minute. I said, you need to pull this curtain. I need to sit down. You need to pump me up with some pain something, and then you can stand up and set my arm. But it was the craziest
wow.
thing. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's funny because we all have our stories, and that's a crazy things. Now I know, like a lot of stories, you have experiences at Starlight, but another tricky question is going to be this: life lessons. Starlight is not all of my life; it's part of my life, but there was certainly life lessons that I drew out of my experience working at Starlight, working with Starlight on stage. Are there any life experiences, life lessons that you took from Starlight that you actually maybe share now with others that you still?
Yeah, I do, definitely. I mean, I have a performing arts studio down in Atlanta, so I work with a lot of young people, and what I reference is the collective commitment to each other,
right?
Because it literally was the show that if you're not on your game and you're not committed to knowing what you're supposed to know and where you're supposed to be and how to get there and how you could injure someone, you could seriously injure someone. So I think there was. Every show has camaraderie, but it felt like with the Broadway company and also with the tour, I always felt like it was a different kind of family. And I think that was what was really remarkable. And I think why we all kind of stay, it's like a tribe, it's like this tribe of people that have been through something that you just can't understand unless you went through it. Right. And so I think that commitment to my coworkers, I took that with me to every show that I ever did. It was a different kind of thing, but it was like, I kind of locked that in at such a young age, how important it was for me to be committed to my fellow cast members, and so I think that was a big part of it. I think it was ethic, learning ethically how to commit, completely 100% to each other. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And it wasn't, it also wasn't a show that you could mark,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And I remember a couple times coming off stage after AC/DC, after that whole section of the show.
Right.
And I remember there was one person in particular who was kind of like a true gypsy, had done a lot of stuff and she really kind of took me under her wing, just in terms of teaching me about the way that we roll when we're doing a show on a Broadway stage. And so it was very quick. If I wasn't 200%, when we came off stage, I heard it. She would be like, "That's not how we do it here. You might want to do it like that somewhere else, but that's not how we do it here." So it was a crash course for me and made me really understand how important it is to work at 200%, to rehearse that way, to perform that way, so that is definitely something I pass on to young people that I work with, that, you got to show up. You got to show up 200% all the time.
That work ethic. Yeah, that work ethic. And it's something we teach also with our students, and Renee does it with coaching, and I do it because, with my martial arts school.
Right.
So yeah, that brings us to this question now. I mean, Starlight is great. We're alumni, and I know I think most of us, everyone I spoke to agreed that we have this bond. And I think because we bled, we cried, and we broke our bodies for this show, and we went through the audition because everyone had their audition process, and this was a journey. It's truly a journey, and many of us have our little battle wounds, injuries, and so today now we're all doing. Many of us are doing projects of what I call passion. Passion projects. Me, I'm working with youth. I have a martial arts school. I have over 300 students, and I'm thinking I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of working with small businesses, sharing my creativity with them. Renee's doing her coaching. We both still do commercials and stuff like that. Our kids are doing great. We have a soon to be 16-year-old and a 19-year-old, and my daughter works full time with me, helping out. And so what we're doing now, the stuff that we're doing now, is just passion, but there's that experience of Starlight, which gets us to know each other. So what are you doing? I know you mentioned the work you're doing down in Atlanta, so share with everyone else what you're doing now, the passion that you have for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I left. Wicked was the last show that I did. I left New York in August of 2012, and my son at that time, I did Wicked for almost 8 years, and I adopted my son right before I started Wicked. So, and he was a year old. So at that point, he was almost 9, and he was like 9 years old. And, it was time to go. I had been tapped on the shoulder. God had been tapping me on the shoulder for 3-4 years, and I just kept, just a second. So finally, the decision was made, and I moved down to Atlanta and worked at different studios in Atlanta. And then I just, I thought there's something that I can do that will be different than what's going on down here. And so there was just for me, there was an authenticity that was lacking just in terms of the training. And so I opened a studio. I never anticipated doing this. Opened a studio with a business partner, we have this year we have over 500 registrations going into this year, and we've been open for 5 years. We're just getting ready to renovate a 14,000 square foot building that we've raised so far $750,000 of the $1 million we need to renovate this building. So I'll have a bunch of new studio space, and I'm having a great time. My son's almost 17.
Wow.
Anyone who has a child that is in that range.
Oh, yeah. I got a 15, 16-year-old and a 19-year-old. So, yes.
It's an adventure. It's a game that you think you know the rules every day, and they change every day. So that keeps me on my toes. I've been married to my husband now for 10 years in July was our anniversary. And
congratulations.
We're doing great. And life is good. And, you know, like I said, I got my hips replaced 3 years ago. Next year, I'm going to do both my knees. And then I'll feel better than I do. But yeah, I mean, life is so good and so about things that are bigger than me and a career and show business and Broadway. And I'm so grateful for all those years of doing that, and that I can kind of posit this wisdom and this life experience with these young people and challenge them to rise up, challenge them to be bigger than they imagined. So yeah, it's a blessed time for me, and I couldn't be happier. I hadn't performed since I left Wicked, and so it'd been quite a while, and I got an opportunity to start working on a project called Mary and Max, this musical, and about 3 years ago, and we mounted a full production in Calgary at Theatre Calgary last year.
Right.
And so that is crazy. I'm playing a 350-pound Jewish New Yorker with Asperger's. Okay, sure. Why not?
It's funny.
Yeah, so that's exciting. I'm waiting to see what happens with that. Yeah, life's real good.
Yeah, it's interesting because most of us are, because I'm going to be 59, and I think when I was about 54, 55, I started really thinking about legacy, thinking about, okay, what do I want to be remembered for when I'm gone? Like, for instance, my children, my kids, one day someone's going to ask them about their dad. Yep. And they're going to say, okay, my dad did, or my dad said, and my dad was part of, and I wanted to really define it, refine that, and out there. And I think this podcast helps with that. But I'm hearing that same thing from you, this like a legacy, passing on the knowledge, passing on the wisdom, and anyone who would listen. So I think it's not an accident that we are created a situation, or God created a situation where we have young people we're passing this knowledge to. Yeah. And it's incredible. And I love that you're doing that. And I remember 5 years ago when you started this journey with in Atlanta, and I was, oh my gosh, that's awesome. And then you are. Congratulations. That's no easy task.
It's no easy task, but I will say this: when you're doing what you're supposed to do, you know what I mean? It's like God hears it, universe hears it, things happen. And I mean, that's been the growth pattern for this business. It's so divinely, you know, guided, and you know, I'm blown away on the daily just by how blessed and how supported and how, you know, fortunate we've been. But I don't think, you know, I think it's, again, when you're doing what you're supposed to do, you know.
I've been doing teaching for just over 20 years now. So I've been with this school and everything like that for 20 years now. So I've been enjoying it a lot. So now, if somebody wanted to find out about you, find out about your program down there, and to find out more, where can they go?
They can go to orbitartsacademy.com, and we're in the process of getting our new website up, but the old website is there, and it kind of shows what we're up to, what we're doing. It's
on Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yeah, we're on all the things.
Okay, so what I'll do
that young people like.
Perfect. So what I'll do, everyone, those of you that are listening or watching, right below, I have all those links and contacts, and then Anthony, whatever pictures and video links you have, forward them to me, and I'll share that with everyone right below, because you'll have your own page. This will be on your page. Yeah, okay. So I'm so excited that you made time. Thank you so much for being part of this project.
Yeah.
And for sharing. Now, I want to give you the last word. What's the final last words that you want to share with everyone that's listening to this right now? And keep in mind, we have alumni listening to us, and we also have cast members that are currently at Starlight watching and listening to it, and the fans also, and then probably your your students are watching this and everyone. So what's the last word you would like to share with them before we sign off?
I would say to people who are doing the show now, don't hesitate to fill out an accident report when you get injured. Because sometimes I didn't. And I'm now 51, getting new legs. So yeah, I would say do that. I think to me, it's follow your passion. It's stand still. Sometimes when you feel like you want to make things happen, what you need to do is shut up and stand still. And, and listen, because you'll be guided. I mean, that's what I did. When I left New York, I came here to Atlanta, and I had a hard time because I realized I hadn't stood still since I moved to New York when I was 17 or whatever, 18. Really stood still and listened. And like I said, I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing, but I sat still for the first year I was down here. And I was divinely guided to exactly what I was supposed to do. Wow. And here I sit, and it keeps growing, and I'm happy, and I'm peaceful, and I have time to smell my life and spend time with my kid and my husband, and it's all good. But that, I think, is the biggest lesson for me has been to stand still. So that would be my advice to all of you. Sometimes it's not what you need to do. It's that you need to stop trying to do something and just wait for the guidance, to get you where you're supposed to be.
Thank you so much for that. I think we all need to hear that, because we have to stop and just be still, be quiet. I appreciate you for reminding everyone. So thank you once again. I appreciate you taking the time. Now, what's your son's name?
His name is Justin.
Justin. All right.
His name is Brad, and yeah.
Well, tell them thank you so much for being part of your life and just sharing their lives with you. Because I know for me, my wife, and my kids, they're part of who I am. And
absolutely.
So your husband, you're part of who you are, and so thank you so much for sharing your life, your moment with me right now. Means the world to me. So thank you so much. And I'll let you know when yours airs, and then I'll stay in touch. So send me whatever you have, and then I'll stay in touch with you. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome, because it really is this tribe. We all speak a language that no one could ever know unless they had been through this. So I think it's really, really cool what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for being a part of it. And you've come up with any ideas, and just go ahead and share them with me, message me, and I'll talk to you soon. And Renee will be chasing after you and saying, hey, she was so happy that she was able to catch you.
Yeah.
You left.
That's awesome. All right, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me on this episode of Starlight Express Alumni Podcast. Next week, I will get together with another alumni. Be sure to subscribe. You can subscribe right here on the website at starlightexpress.club. We are definitely on the iTunes and Stitcher, and we're looking to get on the other platforms, so make sure you check there, subscribe there, and stay connected. If you are a Starlight alumni, please be sure to reach out to me if you would like to be on the podcast. Would love to hear your stories and share your story with the Starlight Express fans and other alumni. Look forward to sharing with you next week. Everyone, have a great day.